Hey everyone, History Mystery Man here, coming to you today from Macomb, Illinois. Macomb, Illinois was founded in 1830 as the county seat for McDonough County. You see the beautiful McDonough County Courthouse behind me. This one's been here a long time, completed in 1872. This is actually the third county courthouse that stood at this property. The first one, built in 1831, was a rough-hewn log. Oh, I'm just in time for the 5 o'clock bells. There's nothing I love more than bells coming off a county courthouse. This one from Macomb, Illinois. By the way, the town square here in Macomb, Illinois is absolutely spectacular. If you've never been to Macomb, you got to come and check it out. The town square is absolutely awesome, preserved quite well, I'd say, in all its 1850s and 1860s glory. It's also important for lots of reasons. Historically significant. Several U.S. presidents have visited Macomb, specifically here in the square, including Rutherford B. Hayes, our 19th president. William McKinley was here. Teddy Roosevelt visited the square here in Macomb. And of course, my all-time favorite, Abraham Lincoln, came through Macomb, Illinois. In fact, he stayed in the Randolph House Hotel, Lincoln did, which is still, it's still there. The original building that Lincoln stayed in, the Randolph House Hotel, is still there. It's just across the square. He was here and stayed in that hotel at least 3 times in August of 1858, and a couple of times that 1858 year in October. He was here in between stops on the famous Lincoln-Douglas debate tour, as he was running at the time for the U.S. Senate. Now, what I didn't know about Macomb, Illinois, is that this is the birthplace of the board game Monopoly. Had no idea. I was coming here to visit my friend Lincoln. Rolling into town, I noticed the signs that said the birthplace of Monopoly, basically invented and designed by a young lady, Lizzie Magie. It was first called, she called it the Landlord's game. But the concept of Monopoly was actually born right here. The Landlord's game, invented by Lizzie Magie, became Monopoly, and it was born here. She was born here in 1866, here in Macomb, Illinois. And there are sites all around the square here that would depict that. A statue of her, dice from the Monopoly game. It's really cool. They even have a board game, a QR code on the sidewalk, and placards that you can actually play. It's very cool. Macomb, Illinois is so interesting and quite beautiful, actually. I'm glad to be here. Welcome aboard, History Mystery Man on duty and at your service. So we know that Lizzie Magie was born in Macomb, Illinois in 1866, May 9th, 1866. She shortly thereafter moved off to Canton, Illinois, but she was born here. And it's always so interesting to me to learn where people come from. It's also interesting to know what they achieve and where they go in life. But for me, the real interest comes from where they're from. And Lizzie Magie, who invented the game Monopoly, was from here in Macomb, Illinois. That's interesting to me. In fact, she was born in a house here in Macomb, and that house is still here. And there it is. It's just a little box. That's all it is. I mean, Monopoly, the board game, the most famous board game in the world, arguably, was born in that little box. The mind that created it was born right there. That's so fascinating to me. Her story is fascinating because a gentleman by the name of Charles Darrow caught wind of Lizzie Magie's board game, the Landlord's game. In fact, he took the concept, changed the name to Monopoly, and took it to Parker Brothers, who bought into it, which is why Charles Darrow became a multi-millionaire by selling Monopoly. Parker's brothers soon learned that they had a huge seller on their hands, and they needed to get the patent for it, and found it important to pay off Lizzie Magie, in which they did. They came to her and said, hey, we'll buy the board game, the concept, from you for a whopping $500 which to Lizzie Magie in the early 1900s probably seemed like a lot of money, and it was back in that day. But keep in mind that Charles Darrow, who took the idea and took it to Parker Brothers, made millions off the contract. But Lizzie Magie, she got $500 for inventing Monopoly. But isn't that interesting? Monopoly was born there. One of the most beautifully preserved buildings just off the square here in Macomb is the Sports Corner at 124. Look at that, isn't it beautiful? I wonder what it used to be in 1800 something. That's what I always wonder. I'll just give you a quick peek in the side. This building really caught my eye. It's been all renovated inside, but it still has the original tin ceilings. Yeah. Super cool. Hopping for a Wednesday night. Very nice. It's been all gutted in here, but the building is preserved, and I appreciate that. It's beautiful. The Sports Corner at 124. But yeah, really beautiful building. Sweet. I know that guy. We're BFFs. And of course, Macomb is home of Western Illinois University. So I've moved over to the east side of the square here in Macomb. That's the east side of the square behind me. That building you see, that one right there, yeah, that one, is of special interest to me. That was at one time the Randolph House Hotel. The building was built in 1857. It was the most elegant hotel in Illinois between, say, Quincy, Illinois and Chicago, Illinois, as guests would say, with unrivaled elegance. It was also where Abraham Lincoln, campaigning for the U.S. Senate, stayed 3 times in the upstairs of the Randolph House Hotel. He was here, and that's why that building is important to me. And it's a nail salon now. I don't think he cared about getting his nails done, but he cared a lot about other really important issues. In fact, if not for Abraham Lincoln, the United States of America would be 2 different countries, probably more, but certainly both the Confederate States of America and the United States of America. But because of Lincoln, the Union held. And interestingly enough, so many people thought, you know, Lincoln had to work on his image, and about that time they were coming up with the Ambro type photography, negatives on glass plates. It was all the rage coming through up at that time, 1850s and 1860s, and Lincoln cued into right away how important his image could be in his presidential run. And that's most interesting because just after he removed himself from or left the Randolph House Hotel, he was persuaded to walk just across the street to the corner here. There's a big old bank there now, but there was at one time a wood-framed building there. James Magie persuaded him, and by the way, James Magie was the father of Lizzie Magie, but Lincoln made his way to the photography studio that once stood there, and the very famous photo of Lincoln from Macomb, Illinois, which was used in the campaign, was in fact crafted right there in a building that once stood there. And as I said, Lincoln understood how important imagery was, because you got to understand, back in that, Lincoln was from Kentucky and raised in southern Indiana before he eventually made his way to Springfield, Illinois, to be one of our nation's very best lawyers. But nonetheless, he had this country bumpkin, folksy like southern drawl accent, And quite frankly, a lot of people just thought he was dumb by the way he sounded. But as we all know now, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, Lincoln's lawyer friend Leonard Swett once said, "Those who took Lincoln to be a simple-minded man would soon wake up with their back in a ditch." And I don't know that you could say it better than that. He was, in my opinion, our greatest president, and we were pretty doggone lucky to have him. But yeah, Abraham Lincoln has ties to Macomb, Illinois, and that's why I'm here. Imagine that. Who wants to play? Well, I guess that just about wraps up my day in Macomb, Illinois. The Macomb Square here is really a treasure. It's quite unique. Now, most town squares across small town America that have the old historic buildings are typically going back to earliest 1880s. There are some exceptions, of course, but most of them go back 1880s, more often than not 1890s and early 1900s. What's unique about the Macomb, Illinois Square is that many of the buildings predate the Civil War that are wrapped around the square back into the 1850s, like the Randolph House Hotel where Lincoln stayed. That's 1857. So these buildings are older and, in my opinion, even more important to preserve, but it makes the preservation process all that much more difficult, because to preserve a building here in the Macomb, Illinois Square, well, it takes millions and millions and millions. The work is just that much harder, but altogether worth it. And the business leaders have done a great job here. The people of Macomb have done a great job to try and preserve this beautiful town square. And I hope they keep trying, because this place is worth saving. History Mystery Man. I'll see you next time. You guys are in amazing shape. What's the secret? Just keep moving.
Just don't stop walking.
Do you walk every day? Is that the?
Yeah, that's the secret. Every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
McDonough County Courthouse. Beagle pup. Hey, wait, we gotta see your face. Look at that. You ever seen a cuter beagle than that? Get back so I can see you. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. You're the cutest little beagle pup I ever saw, I think. You win the prize. I love this. Look at that face. Yeah. I mean, you see lots of beagles, but that's a good looking one there. He's a beaut. Thanks. No problem. Hey, the fire hydrant's right there. You missed it.